Kevin Acklin's story is a true Pittsburgh story. His early years were forged in the shadow of Shinley Park, on a hill overlooking the LTV steel mill, in a working-class neighborhood defined by fierce loves of family and community.
You know, times were tough. When we were kids, Mom raised us by herself, but we never felt like we didn't have everything that everybody else had, you know, growing up. My grandmother and grandfather lived just a block down the street. Our neighbors were watching us all the time. Mom worked pretty hard to put us through school, and so we were raised by our families, but we were also raised by our community.
Well, Kevin is the middle child and spent a lot of time with me. And of course, he was the apple of my eye. Mischievous at times, but he was a nice child. He was very nice child.
My grandfather was a true community leader. When I was a kid, he was a battalion chief in the fire department, was the head of Engine Company 14 in South Oakland. I spent a lot of time as a young kid at his foot, you know, in the firehouse. In fact, I still have a junior firefighter pin that he gave me when I was about 4 years old. And that's really where I first got my sense of public service.
When Kevin was 6, his grandfather died. Though nothing could replace that loss, his neighbors once again offered their support.
The best part of South Oakland was really the people that lived there. And, you know, even going back today, a lot of the same families that were there when I grew up are still there. My grandmother still lives in the same house. She's been there since the mid-'60s. My mother still owns the house where I grew up, just 3 doors down from St. Regis Church. And I can't think literally of a better place in this world to grow up than being from South Oakland. I'm very proud of that.
I guess Kevin was about 3 or 4 years old, and I'm painting downstairs, and there was a Sherwin-Williams can. So he reached the can. He said, "Sherwin-Williams." I said, "Oh, you're a wise guy. Read this." He read the whole label, the back of the can. I got excited, ran up and told my wife. I knew he was going someplace.
Kevin always wanted to be a fireman. His grandfather was a fireman, you know. His grandfather was a battalion chief, Charcaris. Kevin just wanted to emulate him, loved it. And then I guess Kevin had a yearning to go to school, and went to school. He did, and he did quite well for himself.
Well, you can't really talk about the Acklin family without talking about Central Catholic. You know, my grandfather, my mother's father, was the first graduate in my family from the class of 41. My father was the class of 67. All of my uncles, both of my brothers, went to Central, and Central's played a big role in my life, and it's a place that where I learned and became a man.
Kevin excelled in academics and athletics. He played offensive and defensive tackle and was the captain of the football team. On the hockey team, he was an alternate captain, a hard-working, hard-hitting defenseman who racked up penalty minutes and inspired his teammates to joke that even on skates, Kevin was still playing football. The constant in all of this was Kevin's intense work ethic.
The 3 boys grew up working. When they went to Central, they all worked there. And then we'd go pick them up, but they'd be sweeping. And then some of the boys that had plenty, they would drive up in their convertibles with their golf things. And there'd be Danny and Kevin out there sweating, cleaning up, but they never complained.
Kevin graduated from Central in 1994 and earned an academic scholarship to Harvard, where he majored in government. In 1996, he got an internship that changed his life.
Erica and I met during college. We were interns together in an office on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. That's, you know, back when the interns dated each other, you know, not their boss.
Kevin and I met as interns in Washington, D.C. We were interns on Capitol Hill one summer during college.
She was just this very young, smart girl from the Midwest. She grew up in Iowa.
When we started dating, I realized quickly that he didn't know much about girls.
It's funny because I worked that summer full time, and Erica worked 3 days a week. And the joke at the end of the summer was that I was most productive on Tuesdays and Thursdays when she wasn't there.
We've been together ever since then, and that was 13 years ago this summer.
Kevin graduated with honors in 1998, then went on to law school at Georgetown. He graduated with honors in 2001 and was offered a job with one of New England's top business law firms.
Really, instead of living the whole Boston experience, it was really like living the Pittsburgh experience, except how many hundreds of miles away. And living there is when I realized we were destined to come back to Kevin's hometown, because instead of getting, I guess, whatever the newspaper is there, the Boston Herald maybe, we got the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette delivered to our door. And I knew that my Pittsburgh boy wanted to be home.
I had a lot of opportunities in Boston, a lot of financial opportunities to grow, and I was working for a big firm, sort of a big time lawyer, but that's not what I wanted. That's not why I became a lawyer. And I always knew that Pittsburgh would be the only kind of place that Eric and I would ever raise our boys.